Today I'm going to show you guys how to do a tutorial that looks like this.
I was tempted by your smile. And for a little while I was certain that I will be the one to change you, and you will be mine. You will be mine.
Today I'm filming for Elmhurst and their alternative milk brand, and they are one of my paid clients. And so we're gonna set this all up to the aesthetic and the storyboard that I've planned out. And the first thing that we have right here is we use plywood and some sawhorses to make our table because we need a very big table. And then we bought some rolls of marble laminate, and we laid them across by using this to get all the bubbles out and just scrape them across, and that's gonna be our surface. And then right back here, we have pretty much the Savage white backdrop because that's the color or the aesthetic that they have for most of their pictures. And so we have that all set up, and now we're gonna do the lights. This is actually our first shot. And when I mean first shot, this will be the first shot in the video, but this is actually the first shot that we're doing behind the scenes as well. And so what I have is I have the lantern, my favorite thing to use on the 300D Mark II, and that's lighting up my background, but it's also giving me a backlight onto my product. Then I have the 300D with the dome right over here, and this is gonna be my main light, and what it's doing is it's casting this nice soft light onto the front so we can read the label. And then the last is I have my Godox 60 SLW, I think is what it's called, and I'm having that as my nice fill light. And that's just, and I'm leaving that as a hard light because I kind of just want to have a little bit of a harder light right here to little pop the image or the product itself. And then what we're doing for this shot, which is pretty cool, I think, is we're just using a simple technique with a fishing line. And I'm having Kendall and we're timing it with a slider, and when I tell her, she pulls the fishing line and this slides, boop, right next to the glass. So we're starting with the empty glass, but we're gonna do 3 variations where we have the empty glass, then we have the glass full of almonds because that's what the product that we're featuring today, and then we're also gonna do one with the glass filled with the almond milk itself. All right, so the setup that I'm rocking today is I got the 1DX Mark III, and I'm using the Sigma Art 35mm, and then I have my polarizer on the front, and then the Edelkrone slider because I really like using this thing, it's very steady. Then we're just using a foldable table as our thing. I always recommend if you're gonna be using your slider is to use it with something a little bit different, and then to get the right height that we wanted, we just put a shelf underneath it. And I'm always, when I'm doing these, I like to go a little bit lower with the angle with a wider lens because it makes your product look a little bit more grandiose when you're shooting it with a lower angle, which is a little bit different than you would usually typically want to shoot, say, somebody's face where you're a little bit higher, right? This you're a little bit lower, and it makes the product a lot prettier. The other camera that I'm gonna be using is the Ursa Pro G2, and I'm using that for the 300 frames shots, or the slow-mo shots I'm gonna be doing because the client specifically asked for slow-mo shots, so that's when I bust that camera out.
I was tempted.
Okay, so for this shot, this is our ending master shot. And we're focusing on the almond milk right here. And then we have the other 4 flavors right here. And what we wanna do is we wanna have the almond milk in the center, and then we use this wood board to kind of just give a little bit of different look. And then we're going back to the marble on each of these. And so we really spent some time on the set design. We want it to be simplistic and clean, but we don't want it to be completely empty. Then we also have this green plant because the green caps, and then the same aesthetic, but we're using this as a background element, so just not the white wall. And then we're using this white napkin with a little bit of black lining as our foreground element. And all of these different things that we put into this shot are all elements that they use in their style on their Instagram and on their website, which is really important. The last thing that I want to talk about is now that we switched to the motorized part of the slider, which is awesome because it's all modular, so I can switch it out. So the Edelchrome, this is what I like about it, is that it's modular. If I want to have it just manual, I can. Now if I want to have the motor on it, I can. And the reason why I did that is because I want to have the same exact shot 3 times. I'm taking it 3 times. And the reason for that is, first I'm going to focus on this front container. Then I'm gonna focus on one of these middle containers, and then I'm gonna focus on the back container, and I'm gonna take that shot 3 times and I'm gonna overlay them and then mask it so all of their products are in focus if I want it to be, and then still having a very shallow depth of field for the background.
You and you will be mine. You will be mine.
Okay, so my whole philosophy is you gotta do whatever you can to get the shot, and it doesn't have to be pretty on the setup. I know a lot of people like to be really fancy, but when I'm at home and I'm just trying to get the best shot that I can, I will do whatever it takes to do that. And that does not mean I recommend doing this at home, because this is really sketchy, especially for your camera. But we took a ladder and a C-stand and put a piece of wood so I can do a bird's eye view top-down shot with a slider, because a lot of people can do them. You can do them with a tripod, but I wanted to have movement in it. So now we put the slider on top of this, and then I used 2 of my Pelican cases as so, and we're just gonna get the shot going like this and a nice slide across. And then Kendall, with her beautiful eye, created a really awesome flat lay design. Our lighting setup hasn't changed, and the reason why, we kind of moved the lights in a little bit and angled them out, but the primary lighting setup hasn't changed because realistically, all we did was lay the bottles down flat, but they're still facing the same way and they're still casting light the same way that we want. So that's why our lighting hasn't changed at all for this. Kaboo!
Tempted by your
So for this shot, what we're doing is we're gonna probe inside the milk container that leads to our next shot. And the way that we're gonna do this, because I've done this so many times now with different videos that I've done, I've kind of figured out a more genius way to do it, and it's not this. It's still the pants slider. That's the best way to do it every single time, pants slider. But what we did differently this time is that we're doing it actually in reverse. Because this bottle is big enough, we don't have to trick it with a different bottle and use the 50 or anything else. We're actually starting inside the bottle with the cap open, and then I'm pulling out because it's a lot smoother of a motion, and Kendall's putting the cap back on the container. So when we play it in reverse, it's gonna drop straight in, and it looks like Kendall's taking off the container. And the way that I'm gonna control this pants slider is I got it in my belt loops right there, and then I'm just gonna bite on this with a paper towel because I have no clue where my slider's been. I put it in a lot of dirty places, and this is like, I guess, the best way to do it. Huh?
your smile, I will.
All right, so for these next shots, what I'm doing is I'm grabbing all the details on the product, and what I'm doing is just kind of simply pushing in and pivoting with the different details. I'm using the 100 macro to capture these because I think it's the best lens for this. My lighting setup is essentially the same again. You can keep your lighting setup really simple and really rely on the shots and techniques that you're trying to do. And so I'm just grabbing all the different details that I find important or what they've highlighted that are important to me. So make sure to ask the client what details are important to them so that you highlight that on the product, because you may not notice what those are. All right, so this device right here is a motorized Lazy Susan that I have. This is the fastest speed that it goes at. It's called a ComXM. I don't know how to really pronounce that, but I love using this because rotating just gives a such more dynamic look to the shots. And I will put the link of where I purchased this on Amazon below in the description. All right, I am honestly pretty proud of this invention that I came up with. So my client, one of their biggest things that they said they wanted me to artistically capture was that the process that they use to make their almond milk and nut milks is very unique. They use a hydro cylinder that spins really fast, and with the almonds it creates the milk. And so they wanted me to somehow artistically recreate that. And I've been racking my brain because I've already done a cyclone cannon spinner, and it didn't really work too well with liquid because it was sideways. And so I was like, whoa, what if I switch my cylinder vertically? And then I was like, no, that still doesn't work because it's too narrow. And then so what I came up with is like, wait a second, I can use a funnel. And so we got a funnel. This is the first part. We got a funnel, and then we got a spray paint cap because I need to spray paint this white. And I was like, how am I gonna plug this? And I was like, wait, spray paint cap. So I just shoved the spray paint cap up there. I used caulking, sealed it shut, drilled into here, and then using this to spin as we spray painted this white. And then what it does is it pretty much creates, once we put the milk in there, a cyclone effect by spinning like this. Sorry, I just wanna be careful because I don't wanna make a huge mess because we already did. And it starts spinning like that, and you'll see it in the video in a second. But I'm using the Ursa Pro G2 at 300 frames, and I'm shooting that at 1080. The client specifically requested they wanted slow-mo, so this video is gonna be at 1080 because that's the highest resolution I can go at 300 frames for the really, really slow-mo shots. And that's totally fine with them because most things are compressed well with 1080 still. Instagram is only 1080 still, so it's not a huge deal. And I'm actually very excited. So what we did was we used milk, we used the almond milk, but the problem with just using almond milk is that the almonds sink to the bottom and then you don't see the almonds. So I thought, what if we made it thicker by using condensed milk mixed with it? It doesn't change the color, it just thickens the milk, and now all the almonds are floating on top. And so what we're doing is Kendall's gonna be pushing this, and then the milk will already be in there, and then we're gonna pour the almonds in. And this will be coming in right after we probe into the canister. This is what we're gonna see inside the container itself. I think it turned out really cool, and I'm very excited.
Your smile, I
Okay, so for this next shot, what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on the pour shot. And I'm doing all the pours at the same time. So we're gonna do a wide of just pouring and holding the container like this, and we're gonna use the 18mm lens. Then we're gonna do a macro with the 100 and pour and focus on it hitting here in nice and slow motion. And then the last one that we're gonna do is a pour from the container right here. And we're gonna use the 50 for that. And that is important as well. They're all gonna be at 300. And then, sorry, I forgot one more. Then the last, most important one is we're gonna show the milk and the almonds hitting together. So Kendall's gonna pour from one side, and I'm gonna throw almonds from the other, and they're gonna hit into the stream. And it just gives a very pretty slow-mo look that you can see in different videos, so.
was certain that I will be the one to change you and you.
This is our last shot of the day. What we're doing here is, even though this is not the last shot in the video, but this is the last shot of the day, and we're done, and it's a wrap. Really excited, right? And what we want to do here is we're going to drop the container into this container, which is going to be filled with milk, but it's actually not milk. We're using paint and water because we're not going to try to waste milk here. We don't want to waste food. And so paint and water gives a very similar look to nut milk is what we figured. And so we're just going to fill this whole thing up. And then the trick is to drop this container so that the milk explodes up in slow motion on 300 on the Ursa, and it's going to look really sweet. Thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial. It is late. We've been at this for a while, and that is all I got. I'm recording this in the future, but I knew how painful that was. I hope that you guys like, share, comment, subscribe, join the club, I don't know. And also check out the sweet new shirt that Kendall's sister made for me, the Ding Team. Right? Cool. Till next time. I just spit everywhere. I'm so delusional.
I was tempted.